Can you just rewind and take me back to your first Space 1999 viewing experience, or your kind of earliest memories of it?
Well, I can remember the sheer terror of the ending of Earthbound, which is when Commissioner Simmonds, spoilers, wakes up in the cryogenic chamber thinking he's arrived at Earth after 75 years and realises, of course, he hasn't, because it was never set for his body, and he's pounding and they can hear him screaming on Moonbase Alpha. And the idea of that on a Saturday morning, I'd be watching the TV on my own and outside, Dad's mowing the lawn or whatever. That moment of existential horror, I think, is seminal to so many children who grew up in the LWT London region.
And I have exactly the same memory of that, and I could feel the, what is it now, 30 years old panic rising in me as I watched that episode. I know what happens here. Oh my gosh, just as you say, stuck in this perspex box, with everybody else around you in hibernation, and you think, oh my gosh, that's all. It is the being buried alive thing. It is that awful. So I agree. And it turns out that all of the episodes that I enjoyed the most this time around, watching them again, were the ones that had scared me the most when I was growing up. And Earthbound is definitely one of those. So The Exiles was
series 2, but like a series 1 episode.
But like a series 1 episode, and that's and that has Peter Duncan in it, and
Stacey Dawning. Who was the woman who gets thrown out?
Oh, okay. But it's super dark, isn't it? Because there's this fleet of ships that are sort of these escape capsules, and then they go and rescue them, and you think, oh, that's nice. You've rescued these people, and then those people try and annihilate them.
Well, tell us your story about, because you had a really interesting analogy about why Space 1999 was so great and so dark, and it was. You gave a James Bond comparison.
Well, that's right. Well, it's really that the series 1 is this bleak, dark sort of, headlong leap into darkness and the unknown with really no hope. And Koenig is this commander who's like, I still have to lead. I still have to protect my people. I must still do anything at all to try and keep them going. And that means, if you're an alien on the end of that, Koenig was always going to say, well, it's my people first, and that doesn't matter what I have to do. And in fact, although it's a series 2 episode, The Exiles is the greatest illustration of that. That faced with a choice of what to do about how to balance this, it's us or them. It's always us.
But he risks Helena Russell, who's being held hostage.
Well, he does, but he's the ultimate utilitarian, isn't he? Yeah. He's, the needs of the many, my people, versus the needs of the few. And that's anyone. That's Helena Russell, that's the aliens. And that's the scene at the end of The Exiles where it's like, how am I going to resolve this? I know. I'm just going to chuck this woman out of the airlock, and not even a second's thought. There's no hesitation. And I when we talked about this before, I said, Series 1. Commander Koenig, Series 1, Space 1999 is like the Sean Connery James Bond version of sci-fi. So famously, Sean Connery, in killing off an enemy, was it in Goldfinger? Yeah. He just sort of walks into the bathroom and chucks a 3-bar heater into the bath and turns around and says, "Shocking." and that is the whole sensibility of Series 1. And then in Series 2, it becomes much more Roger Moore and Judo Chop and a little bit weird and a little bit fantasy, but. I think you totally get Commander Koenig. You totally get what he's about. He's about, it's us and it's only us and there's nobody else, and everybody else needs to get out of our space because this is how I'm going to keep us going.
I'm going to say there's one Series 2 episode which I think is outstanding, and it's the one that I've rewatched the most. I bought it on VHS when it became available back in the early 90s when I got it, and it's the AB Chrysalis, which is, what I love about it is it really fully imagines a proper alien species. So they breathe chlorine, they land on that moon, which is sort of set up their shockwave. So it has everything a good episode should have. The risk of complete destruction of Moonbase Alpha, and we get to see some proper explosions and damage and medical centre trying and struggling to cope. And then they go to an alien planet where they have those bouncing probes, and that voice of Robert Riti, who dubbed all the Italian actors who couldn't speak proper English in the episodes, but also had that, I'm sure he did James Bond dubbing as well. There are a lot of actors who dubbed those kinds of things. And he's the voice of the probe. And they try and work out what planet they're from, and he gives them a pen to draw the sort of solar system. And I just thought it really was a sense of entering an alien world, and just the aesthetics of that set with the bouncing balls and the sound was beautiful. Sarah Douglas, who was one of the baddies in Superman 2, is one of the mysterious women. And for all the banter, you know, the whole thing about Fred Freiberger was he put this kind of flirty banter at the end of series 2 episodes which people hated. This is one of the few episodes where it works, where Helena Russell says, I hear those women were naked. And he goes, oh, I don't remember. And she says, and green. And he goes, oh, I don't think they were green. It was so lovely.
But I have to say, the banter at the end of the episodes of Series 2 did wind me up. And I think it wound me up at the time because it was that thing that they used to do on the news, you know, their whole famous sort of, you know, I've told you this thing about some international cataclysm, but here's a story about a skateboarding duck.